to the podium? Not seeing anyone in the boardroom. And then how about, yes, we have some people who are on Zoom. And why don't we start with Steve Collins, Local 21. Please go ahead and hopefully you'll be unmuted.
I think I am. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Hello, commissioners. This is Steve Collins. I'm the president of Local 21. I am here to ask that the commission approve the class and comp study report from EHA Associates. This is a report that many hundreds of hours of time and energy was put into. This process went on for about 1.5 years. The district paid the consultants $100,000 to do this. There was a steering committee of about 20 members that was put together, including the assistant superintendent of HR, the classified director, several other staff members from the Merit Commission. All unions were represented. Well, the two unions, BCC had 3 members, Local 21 had 1. Many employees participated. Hundreds and hundreds of hours were put into this process. We had well over 20 meetings, the steering committee. The classified director did a really good job of communicating to both the steering committee and to the greater employee base. There were emails that went out along the way, reminding people to fill out their questionnaires. Employees filled out questionnaires. The supervisors got to fill out a piece. The consultants then brought that to the committee where there were discussions. The BCC portion, the study was broken into 3 phases, and phase 1 and 2 were both BCC, and phase 1 and 2 got extended by quite a few months because things weren't moving along and BCC had concerns. And so the Local 21 portion of the study actually was crunched down in time. And we did lots and lots of work to get our members to participate and get feedback from our members when they weren't happy. So lots and lots and lots of process went into this. And this is something that classified employees deserve. You get appreciation of duties over many years. This only happens about every 8 years. It's been 8 years since it was done last time. And the employees are expecting this thing to move forward. It would be a tragedy for this thing to not move forward, and it would be a complete waste of just way too much time and money and energy. So this needs to move forward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Collins. One quick thing, as you and probably everybody else is aware, during public comment, the commissioners don't comment specifically on the matters that are raised in public comment. But I did want to ask you whether we, as you know, have this item, this issue of the class and comp study on our agenda as a conference item. And my question to you is, will you be here if there are questions that I or the other commissioners have during that time?
I have a personal thing that I have to attend at 5:45 for an hour. So I have to leave at about 5:30. So I'm not sure that I'll be here.
Okay, well, we will hope for the best. Thank you.
And we did also write a letter to the commission. Local 21 did. We sent it to the Merit Commission staff.
I see. Okay, thank you. Let's see. I saw Jennifer Gordon has her hand up also. So if Jennifer Gordon can be promoted, and then go ahead and make your comment.
Thank you for the opportunity to comment. I'm speaking on behalf of BUSD's 11 library media specialists. The full statement is in the chat. The library media specialists are currently misclassified and request to be reclassified with the same pay and steps as instructional specialists. This certainly seems more like a personnel commission agenda item rather than a comment. However, when we submitted our request to be on today's agenda, we were informed that there is a moratorium on reclassifications and our request was denied. For nearly 2 years, we've been in communication with Charlie Castillo and our union about our request to be reclassified with instructional specialists, and neither mentioned a moratorium. We were told to participate in the classification and compensation study, which we all did, and to let the process play out, which we have. We followed the procedures, we have been patient, and we have tried to be understanding. After all this time, we are frustrated that no action has been taken to address our misclassification. Instead, we are being asked to again wait. The Personnel Commission has heard and taken action on reclassification cases as recently as June 2024. Please see Agenda Item 8E from the June 26 meeting. We, the library media specialists, wish and deserve to be reclassified now. In our job, we lead weekly library classes and instruction for all TK to 5th grade classes. Plan and execute creative programs to promote literacy and a love of reading, produce and implement lessons and material to support grade level curriculum, collaborate with teachers to support special units of study with books and online resources, work closely with Lit Coaches, RTI coordinators, and ELD teachers to provide books for their students. Library classes always include at least one of the following: a read aloud and discussion, book talks, or library skill lessons. Library media specialists with our expertise in diverse authors and culturally responsive literature play an essential role in supporting BUSD's mission. This position requires a strong knowledge of current children's literature with an emphasis on diverse stories and voices, as well as school-wide curriculum. The knowledge is used to develop our library's collections, which provide books for all our students, as well as classroom instruction. Our current job description is in the chat. In 2016, the elementary school library staff classified at the time as library technicians successfully argued for a reclassification as library media specialists. However, instead of being grouped with other instructional specialists in class 51, library media specialists were grouped in class 45 with staff who do not work directly with students, such as accounting and grounds staff. As a result, according to the BCCE salary schedule for 2023 to 24, library media specialists make 16% less than instructional specialists. Their step 1 is our step 4. We have worked to fix this mistake for nearly 2 years, requesting equal pay for equal work. We have the same, if not more, responsibilities as the other instructional specialists, which include gardening, dance, drama, and some art instructors. For comparison, let's look at gardening specialists. Like us, gardening specialists are district employees or at all sites, have schedules that include time with students and time to maintain their instructional space, equipment, etc. Have a supervisor, see the same number of students in classes, have similar expectations regarding supporting teachers in grade level curriculum. Therefore, it makes no sense that library media specialists are not in the same salary grouping as instructional specialists. Please tell us why we are different. The current classification and compensation report found that BUSD's library media specialists are paid below the average and median rate, which compared to their peer group. The study also recommended that BUSD consider an adjustment to the salary range when the wage is below the mid-range of the market median, which the report showed it is. Placing us in the correct pay range 51 with instructional specialists would not only rectify this issue, but also benefit BUSD, making it a more attractive district when recruiting and retaining qualified individuals for the position. Since library media specialist salaries come from BSEP, an increase in our pay scale, as well as any adjustment to our classification, would not impact the district's general fund. We know that the classification and compensation study is under review and that we again have been asked to wait and told that once the review is complete, the BUSD may consider a pay increase. However, the possibility of perhaps receiving higher pay will not resolve the problem because we are not correctly classified to begin with. We have the same responsibilities, specialized knowledge, and skills required of instructional specialists. Yet we are not classified as instructional specialists and therefore not receiving equal pay for equal work. We ask that Commission make this an agenda item at their next meeting so we can begin the conversation on how to rectify the long-standing issue. Our district library administrator, Jessica Lee, and school site administrators support our request for reclassification.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ms. Gordon, for your comment. I believe there are two additional hands that are raised at this point. Let me just say, we do have a lengthy and important agenda, so let's try to keep, please, the comments as succinct as possible. So I will now call on Ms. Denise Diggs-Ray for her comment.
Yes, I just wanted to comment that since this classification compensation study, that classified staff, it's specifically in the office, have been given extra work, not different work, but extra work. For myself personally, originally I had 4 staff people in my office. Now I have 6. So of course that is additional work that should be compensated. And originally when I filled out the survey, that was not the case. And I'm sure that is with a lot more people. And I just hope that once we get through this, that is taken into consideration. I want to mention the admissions office, where there were 3 staff people besides the manager, and now there's 1 with the sub, but the one is doing the extra work of the other 2. Somehow that needs to be compensated, and it is. She's given overtime. But again, additional work is something that needs to be reviewed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Diggs-Ray. And then our last commenter, I believe, is Ms. Zoe, if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
You are, thank you, and that's my school login. My name is Zoe Williams, and I'm a library media specialist. And I just wanted to say that there are over 10 of us here, and if you guys want to raise your hand briefly and then unraise them just to show that are in support of everything that Jennifer said. And again, we've been told to wait for the classification and compensation study. We've been waiting for a long time, and we're asking the Personnel Commission to consider reclassifying our position immediately. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comment. We'll now close the public comment and move on to approval and adoption of the agenda. I actually have 2 matters that one that I need to address, and then the other that I think would be a good idea. What needs to be addressed has to do with the nomination of the commissioner for this commission, and that is that item 8C can remain and should remain on the agenda as presented. However, items 9, which is the public hearing, and item 10, which is the motion to appoint the commissioner, those under the Ed Code cannot be held until 30 days after this meeting. There has to be an opportunity for the administration, for the public, for the unions, for everyone else to come and address any concerns that they might have at a public hearing, and that public hearing cannot occur until 30 days have elapsed. So I would request that I would move that items 9 and 10 be deleted from the agenda and be placed on the agenda for our next meeting on October 23rd. Yes, Ms. Goldstein.
I have a couple other items I'd like to add to yours. Good catch.
Okay, do you want to do all of them at once? Is that?
That's sort of what I was thinking.
preferable? Okay, then let me make my last one and then.
Okay.
I have one more.
Got it.
And that is, we have a closed session that is regarding the recruitment of the executive director, which is item 12. And that's very important. It's scheduled to go 30 minutes. I doubt seriously whether it will take that long, but nonetheless. But then we have item 11 before that, which is the discussion of the after-school program specialist and after-school program coordinator. I move that we reverse the order of those two so that we have the closed session first, and then we're not rushing to listen to the issues involved in item 11. So I would, I move that item 12, closed session, precede item 11. As I say, I don't think it'll take a full 30 minutes. So those are my changes. And Ms. Goldstein, you have some additional ones.
Sure. Just because we heard from Steve Collins that he won't be able to stay here beyond 5:45, and that's about an hour from now. I wanted to suggest that conference item 8B, which is the comp and class discussion, actually be moved forward prior to the consent items, so that we have an opportunity for his input. So I'm suggesting we move 8B to after, we could actually even do it after the approval of the meeting minutes.
Well, I liked your first suggestion first. I would like to hear the reports from the union and from the district, and I think that might inform what we're going to talk about.
All right, I'm okay to put it after item 6. Hopefully
After item
commissioners
6.
reports, right, before
Okay.
item 7.
Okay. Are you?
And I had
okay.
one other one.
Yeah, I have one additional one. too.
Okay. I wanted to pull in consent, item 7F, the maintenance engineer item for brief discussion.
Okay. And I would like to pull item 7A, administrative assistant 3, for a discussion. All right, so that's a lot of changes. So as I understood them, the changes are deleting items 9 and 10 from this agenda, number 1. Number 2, moving item 12 to where item 11 is now, and item 11 where 12 is now. Then we have taking the item 8B and moving that to after item 6. And then pulling item 7F and 7A for discussion.
I think
Did I
that's.
do that
I
right?
think that's it. That's good.
Yes, I think that's right.
Okay, all those in favor of those changes to the agenda, please say aye.
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 Okay, passes unanimously. All right. Why don't we just, to be sure, we've made that motion. Can we have a motion to approve and adopt the agenda as revised?
A motion we approve and adopt the agenda as revised.
I second.
Okay, and I agree, that passes unanimously. So now we have the approval of the meeting minutes of August 28th, 2024. Do we have any suggested changes to those minutes?
I saw only one thing, and I think it's just a typo. There's a reference to items 7A through L, which I think is supposed to be A through I in the minutes. That just needs to be corrected.
Oh, A through L, where it says Commissioner Goldstein moved to ratify eligibility list 7A through L.
Right.
That should be 7A
A
through I.
I. right.
Okay. Any other Suggested changes, Mr. Carter?
None for me.
Okay, then can I have a motion to approve the minutes of August 28th, 2024 with the slight revision to item 7?
A motion to approve.
And I second.
Moved and seconded. I agree. That passes unanimously. Okay, now we're on to our reports. Reports from the union, either in person or on Zoom. And I see we have Mr. Hernandez and Ms. Shara who are approaching the podium.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome back. Nice to see you, Commissioner Roeder. I'm going to ask, just so I can give you guys just a little bit of homework. So at our next meeting, you will have, I'm gonna probably make this an action item, but a discussion item, but I'm just gonna go ahead and make this for everyone. See, I told you guys I'm workable. So we don't have to go down to 11 or 12. I'm just gonna bring it up to union report and talk about after-school coordinator and after-school program specialist right now instead of later, and we'll just get it out the way because I'm sure just after I just speak on it, and then I'll bring it back for an action item. And then it's probably something that's gonna probably go towards the board anyway, but I just wanna bring to you our concern about the two positions today. So I made, here, if you could just hand this to them for me, please, Frank. To the commissioners, please. And what Frank is handing to you is the job description between the specialist and the coordinators. If you recall, I know Commissioner Carter, you weren't here then, but we wish you were, but you weren't here then. What happened was we had the job description of the after-school program specialist. As you recall, they created the job description of the after-school program coordinator. During the October 22 Personnel Commission, when I can't think of Christie's last name, but I think she had started working at that time in July. It was a lot of discussion regarding the concern of that position, not understanding what this position was supposed to do. During that process, it was just a lot of back and forth, not understanding what that position was supposed to do. The position conflicts with the after-school program specialist. So we have the specialist that is a BCCE position, and then we have a coordinator, which is a local 21 position. But both positions conflict with one another because both positions are doing the exact same thing. BCCE, where we stand is that we're not willing to give away our work. The positions that the coordinators are doing is the work of BCCE. The spreadsheet that I created shows you where everyone are, right? So if you see what I create here, Frank, so you can see what I'm talking about. You will see where in the pink, how many specialists we have, and then in the beige, how many coordinators we have, and then in the blue, that's how many ITs we have. And then there's a note on the side that says, why do we need both? Because there's so many inconsistencies across the district of, at one site you will have a specialist and a coordinator, and then how many ITs. So, for example, let's just say that if we look at Willard, you just have one coordinator and an IT. Okay, then if you have one coordinator and IT, there's no specialist, then who is doing the work of the specialist? The coordinator. If you look at, let's just say, let me see another site. If we look at Thousand Oaks, we have just a specialist, and then we have an IT. If we look at Malcolm X, we have a specialist, but no coordinator. If we look at Oxford, we have a coordinator, but then there's no specialist. And then there's four ITs. And then if we look at Arts Magnet, we have a specialist, and then there's no coordinator. So it's a lot of inconsistencies. And then even right now, we have a specialist that's at Arts Magnet that's doing coordinators work. If you look at the job description, and there's just like a few duties that's different, maybe timesheets, it could be talking to the principal or the coordinator. I would say the coordinator, not the principal, but the coordinator over the program about evaluations, who's doing what, or certain things. Then they should get paid the rate of a coordinator. So they're working out of class. It's just a lot of inconsistencies here. But at the end of the day, when you look at both job descriptions, they're the same. So you have the coordinator doing the work of the specialist, but they're getting paid more money to do the work of the specialist. So it's a concern of ours. And one of the things that I wanted to talk to the commission about is that, and I was saying to Frank, is that we have to be careful that when we create these job descriptions, that we're not doing this, that we're not including the work of another union, and then it causes problems, because ever since this happened, it has caused a lot of concerns and issues with these two positions. Who's doing what? Are you supposed to do this? Am I supposed to do this? Will you take half and I take half? And it's like, no, you can't do that. Do your job description. But if I'm doing a job description, then what are they supposed to do? Are they supposed to sit there and do nothing? So it's just been a hot mess. So we're just, I needed to bring that to your attention, but the action that I plan on bringing back next time is to say, okay, if we have a after-school program specialist where there's no coordinator, then that specialist should get out-of-class pay as a coordinator. Does that make sense? So it's a lot, but I wanted you guys to see the inconsistencies that it has caused, and then to go back from the very beginning when these 12 positions was even created, the process wasn't even done correctly. So that's just kind of some little homework for you guys to just kind of look at and look over and see what's going on for our next meeting. See how fast that was? And we don't even have to go to number 11 or 12. All right? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, don't see anyone else from the unions. Is there anyone from the district who would like to address the commission? Not sure I see anyone. Sarah, do you see anyone with their hand up? Say it again. She does, huh? Okay, let me see. Oh, there, yes. Missed you. Okay, we will call on Assistant Superintendent Samantha Tobias Espinoza, please.
Hello, thank you, commissioners, and the audience today, much larger audience than normal, which is fabulous. I just want to say that I'm very excited for both discussions, larger discussions that are happening today. The class and comp, where hopefully we can make some progress to continue to move forward, as pointed out by our library and media technicians, as well as by other specialists, as well as other positions that are waiting to see the results of this and see some movement, as well as to continue moving forward and not have wasted the money that was spent on this project. As well as I am eager to hear what the commissioners think and what information they may need more of to be able to resolve the ongoing conflict that was just spoken about by Mildred regarding the after-school program site coordinators and the after-school program specialists. I will save my comments on that until that discussion item. I do also want to say that the district recognizes that we have this class and comp study, as well as being in negotiations with both Local 21 and BCCE regarding their contracts and compensation. And so I do want to remind the commissioners, as well as everybody in the audience, that the district did have to do budget balancing last year for 7.2 million, and will most likely have to do more budget balancing this year to move forward. And I would suggest that we keep that in mind with any decisions we're making regarding any positions or any changes that happened regarding positions. Not saying that we shouldn't pay our classified what they deserve, which is obviously more than what we are paying them, but unfortunately we do have to work within our budget. So I just would appreciate everybody having that viewpoint. Thank you.
Thank you, Assistant Superintendent Tobias Espinoza. Now on to commissioners' reports. Are there reports from Ms. Goldstein or Mr. Carter? Ms. Goldstein, please go ahead.
So just very brief reports. This morning, I think it happened this morning, the governor vetoed Assembly Bill 2088, which is something that we and our association had been advocating for a veto. The governor's veto reason was the same as when he vetoed this bill last year when it came before him, which is that it would produce unintended and undesirable consequences. So sort of breathing a sigh of relief that that bill was vetoed. I'm sure it'll be back in another form, but dodge that bullet again. And then just to actually riff on Assistant Superintendent Tobias Espinoza's comments. One of the things that is important about our class and comp study to be useful is for our agency, for BUSD, to actually have a compensation philosophy. This is what helps us understand where we want to place our offers to staff. 50th percentile, 30th percentile, 70th percentile. And it's a useful guide, and it's not necessarily an across the board item, but as we discuss the class and comp study, we will be discussing, I hope, more a compensation philosophy, which is really not for the commission to determine, it's really for the board to determine. And it will be important that our board, because budgets are tight, actually weighs in on this and gives some guidance. So that's my report.
Thank you, Commissioner. Vice Chairman Carter, any comments?
None of this, no comments from me today.
Yeah, and I'm going to join you, given our time frame. I'm not going to have any comments either, which then takes us to our interim personnel director's comments. There you are.
Try to make this fast. Good evening, commissioners. I'd like to start by expressing my gratitude for the opportunity to serve in this interim role. I acknowledge that Charlie's exit and the transition, the departure may be challenging, but my team and I were committed to ensuring a smooth process while maintaining our PC services and supporting our classified staff, and also advancing critical projects like this class and comp study. I'm proud to report that our team has been diligently working to keep up with all of the recruitments despite the high demand from our hiring managers. This can be demonstrated by tonight's meeting. We brought forward 8 lists, and since the publication of this agenda, we've successfully completed 4 additional lists that will be coming forward next month. August was an especially productive month for us. It's reflected in our personnel activity report. We administered a total of 326 assessments, including 138 training and experience assessments, 159 written exams, and 29 oral exams. And that averaged 14.8 exams per day. Additionally, we welcomed 13 new hires. We facilitated 5 promotions and made 2 new assignments. Our HR partners also played a crucial role in onboarding all of these new employees, and I want to always commend their hard work. In our ongoing efforts to strengthen collaboration, I've had several constructive meetings with colleagues across the district. I had an introductory session with Superintendent Anikia Ford Morthell, and she was particularly encouraging. She was welcoming and she emphasized good communication between the PC and the district. I've had also fruitful meetings with the extended learning Learns Bears department. We explored strategies for targeted recruitments and for IT positions, and we discussed implementing a streamlined onboarding process to enhance efficiency for all of those IT BASP vacancies that we have. We also have regular meetings with HR and BCCE. We're making, I feel, consistent progress in resolving a lot of issues. And then I'm also pleased to share an update regarding some personnel changes. We reclassed last month Paradise Roberts as a school safety officer after she took on some additional responsibilities. The commissioners asked to bring back some information, and so I coordinated with our professional development coordinator, Paula Phillips, and she confirmed that Ms. Roberts completed 5 relevant courses last year, and we're also enrolling her in the SB 390 course, which is the most comprehensive training for school safety officers, and she'll also be participating in all upcoming safety officer training. The next session for her is scheduled on PD Day, October 7th. So this concludes my report for this month. I look forward to discussing more items that we have moving forward. I understand that we have the class and comp report ahead, but I recommend that we roll that into the item that we'll be discussing regarding the class and comp study. I've encouraged all unions and unrepresented employees to participate in this meeting, so I hope they can so that their voices can be heard. And that's it.
Thank you. I just want to weigh in too and thank you, Aaron, very, very much for jumping into the breach and helping us all with the demanding responsibilities that you have as interim director, especially in the midst of the class and comp study and all the other things that we have. And I do want, I'm happy to see Brian Westover and Sarah here. And I want to thank both of you also on behalf of the commission very, very much for your hard work in getting all of the eligibility lists and the recruitments and the tests. It's a big job and you do it tremendously well. And Olga's not here, but please convey our appreciation to Olga too. Okay, any other comments from any of the commissioners? Go
I'll
ahead.
just comment, not wasted on anybody, but the number of tests or reviews done on a daily basis in August is 2x what the average is. It must have just been a crazy month. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we can go on then to the revised agenda item, which was 8B, which is the classification and compensation study personnel commission recommendations. Not sure how we should approach this. We could make some comments initially as commissioners, or perhaps Aaron would like to, and then hear from our unions and employees and the district. Would we like to, maybe I'll start out if that's okay, with just making some very general comments. And that is, number one, this has been a long time coming. I do believe that we need to move this forward, this process forward in some responsible way to the Board of Education and to the district. That's one. Two, we'll probably hear more about it, I'm assuming, later on, but there have been ups and downs, a lot of downs on this in this study. I think that from my standpoint, some aspects of it have been disappointing by our consultant, but nonetheless, we have their report in front of us. I'm cognizant of the problems that BCCE in particular have presented to us, both about the job descriptions and also about the methodology for the compensation portion. And I think we need to address that in some way. And then perhaps lastly, just in terms of roles and responsibilities, it just seems to me that under the Ed Code, it's the school board as advised by the district and to some extent advised by us, that it's their responsibility to set the duties of each of the positions in the of the employees of the district. And therefore, ultimately, all we can do is make recommendations if we have any, but that I think it's ultimately the board's responsibility and the administration's responsibility to set forth those duties. By the same token, I think it's also the case, even more so, with the compensation portion. Yes, we can make recommendations perhaps, but compensation is exclusively within the jurisdiction of the school board as negotiated with the unions and discussed with the other non-represented employees. So I do think our role, and this is something I'm going to be cognizant of, our role is somewhat limited as to what we can do with this compensation study. So those are my 2 cents. Would any of the other commissioners like to talk in general terms about how they see this?
Sure, just very briefly. I appreciate that Assistant Superintendent brought up that negotiations are going on concurrently with the class and comp study, not wasted on me. I'm aware of that. And I think probably we are all aware of that. And the best service I think that we can do as a commission is to help guide to the degree we can our school board directors in understanding what a compensation philosophy is and how it can be applied so that they can then use that as a guide in their negotiations or any choices they make about recommendations that we might bring forward. I think part of our value here will be to have them understand, fundamentally that whether it's BCCE, Local 21, or the unrepresented populations, there are job titles that, are quote unquote undercompensated, depending on where you put the bar, and help them to prioritize what it is that they want to do. Ultimately, the decision is theirs, and absolutely with tight funds, that'll be a series of tight decisions.
Thank you, Commissioner Goldstein. Vice Chairperson Carter.
Yeah, I'll make my comments brief. I do have to agree with you, Izzy, that our role here is limited on what impact we can have on the actual study. I do want to acknowledge the challenges that that both unions have had with the way this is unfolded. And I'm more of an action person, and I've made this a public comment toward the end of the last meeting, and I think I should make it during the meeting, which is the overall study is is a large undertaking for any one entity, whether that be the district, whether that be the union, or whether that be the PC. And my suggestion was, this is also bounced off the union as well, some of their members, is that we break it up and do a portion of the district each year, have it funded by the district with the same money they would use for an outside vendor, and have that money fund a person inside the PC to continuously reclass and review positions over this 3-year period. It's taken 2 years for this class and comp study. It's just too large, I believe, for accurate input from the whole district to try and squeeze it into this time frame. We've had that last time I was on the board, last time I was on the commission, we had that issue, and it's the same thing this time around, and it'll be I suspect if we continue to do the process the way we're doing it, it will continue to be an issue. So that's my suggestion. Okay, that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Carter. Erin, did you want to chime in on anything at this point, or hold your fire?
I do want to point something out that's a bit important. During phase 1, there were some recommendations that were made for reclasses for a few employees, and the executive director at the time notified those employees about their upcoming reclasses. But during one of the meetings we had with the steering committee, it was suggested that the reclassifications be postponed until all of the reports were finalized. And so unfortunately, the data for those employees was omitted from the initial reports, even though it had been discussed verbally with the employees and with EHA. But once we identified the oversight, we requested the missing data from EHA, and they provided it to us. And so that's sort of what I left for you all in a separate packet there. And it's really just for one position, a clerical assistant 1, and for an admin assistant 3. And I just wanted to make sure that was included in the packet. And we're including it in all of our electronic phase 1 packets as well. That's all I wanted to add about that.
Thank you, Erin. Well, probably our next move is to listen to our unions and to listen to any employees who want to address us. So again, if we could try to keep things as succinct as possible, we want to, be able to discuss this as the commission and hopefully reach some consensus. I see BCCE is coming to the podium.
Oh, okay. So I know I'm not going to say what you all want me to say. I'm sorry. I can't. I thought about this all weekend. And I will be doing the union a disjustice and the oath that I took if I came up here and said something that I completely disagree with. BCCE serve almost 700 members. And I'm not going to come up here and say something just because I know it's what people want me to say or what they expect me to say. That's just not who I am as a person. I'm going to stand to my belief and what I believe in. And I know, and I've been in this district long enough to know how a class and comp should go. And I know how, what we said from the very beginning. And what ENH, actually, I need my binder. I'm sorry. Sean, can you have my binder, please? In the very beginning at our December, when we launched our first meeting in December 13th, 22. That was our very first meeting with EHNA. And one of the things that they stated that they were going to do was to ensure job descriptions are current and correct, to review essential functions, minimum qualifications, and working conditions for accuracy, to simplify classification structures, to ensure market internal structure alignment, to identify paths for career progression, to address recruitment and retention needs. We asked, let's say if an employee have a disagreement with their administrator, how would you handle that situation? Because we know that happens. Would a desk audit be done? Like, what would happen? And they said that they would address it. They would not automatically listen to the administrator. They would not automatically listen to the employee, but they would do their due diligence and do their investigation. That's not what happened. None of the things that they said as far as the study goals is what happened. If we look at, and I'm just going to name some job descriptions that didn't get their due diligence. I would say the specialist, the senior specialist, senior benefit specialist, bus driver, IAs, because they said with the IAs that the findings, the compensation piece and the job description match. But if you're saying that you're going to look at the retention part, that can be possible. Knowing that's one of our biggest vacancies. So when you look at the findings, would you look at their recommendation and the findings that they said that the compensation and the job description match, but we're not able to retain IAs. So that couldn't be right. I can't come up here and say that I recommend us moving forward. I'm not going to say it. I know they want me to say it. I'm not going to say it. I know we have our library media specialists here, and I do agree with them. I read their report. I read the findings. However, even in their findings, the report that EHNA gave us, the numbers are off. The only numbers that matched that I received was from Pleasanton. The numbers that they gave from Pleasanton is correct. The numbers that they gave from Alameda is incorrect. The numbers that they gave us from Hayward is incorrect. The numbers that they gave us from Livermore was incorrect. Did you do bus driver, Steve? Do you have the information for the bus driver? Do you have it with you?
The information that I got was incomplete. I mean, it's not. So the information I got is, I don't think I can report effectively because I don't think that what I got was a true match to what they did. So I don't know how they did how they got their median. Some of the reports I found were, $10 discrepancy from step 1 to step 5 versus Berkeley. But I don't know if they have an FTE or some of their school days are different. They're like part-time people rather than full-time. So it's not really accurate, but it's concerning to me that there's such a difference. Only 3 schools have actually transportation out of the 7 that they reviewed. So did they Google the other 7 and find out what they're using, Zoom or whoever? I don't know, because I wasn't on that side of that report. However, I can tell you that if you look at the job descriptions on some of them, they're more elaborate than what we have for Berkeley, for drivers. Now, it says first aid, but what do we do when we're dealing with a bloody nose? That's not just first aid. That's we're dealing with human waste. Kid vomits, they defecate on the bus. That's not in the job description. And those should be items that we're compensated for, because we have to deal with that on a daily basis. It's not just one time. It's every day. We do preschool to high school. plus special ed. So that's just my opinion.
Okay.
So what we
Thank you.
did, just to kind of give you so I don't want to take up the whole time, but what we did is that we created BCC created our own committee of exec board members, and we dived into the different classifications. Everybody had their own little group of classifications for them to report on, get some information, get some numbers, get some feedback, to see, and compared it to what EHA came back to us with. When we started phase 1 and phase 2, we did get an extension with phase 1 because there was a lot of members that we were trying to get to get involved in ClassCom. We wanted to get as many members as we could to be involved in the process. A lot of people did not want to be involved, and we know why, and I see why, because again, this process only supports upper management, and I don't care, I'm going to say it. It only supports upper management. It does not support BCCE. And there were a lot of people within that committee that was not happy with this. So it just boggles my mind that today people want to act as if they're so happy about it and it was such a great process, but that's not what I heard throughout the whole process. And I'm standing here not just as a BCCE member or a BCCE leader, I'm standing here as somebody that was on the steering committee from the beginning to the end. And one of the things that I am going to do always is be honest. This was not a clean process. It's the same thing that happens all the time where we think that it's, we're just asking for, integrity. We're asking for fairness, which we know life ain't fair. Okay, fine. But we wanted it to be right. And that's just not what happened. We didn't get the feedback that we wanted, but I'm hearing things today that is not, that just didn't happen with the process. I do want to say, I want to make sure that I say this. It just left my mind just that quick because there's so much running through my mind with this whole process. But the class and comp, yeah. Is there anything you want to say? So it just completely lost my mind what I wanted to say here, but okay, it just came back to me. Sorry. Recommendation. The question I have is the recommendation that everybody wants the PCE to give today. What is that supposed to do? What is the recommendation that you guys are going to give today is that supposed to go to the board and then that's it? Because I'm hearing different things and we're confused on what's supposed to happen. That's really a question.
Okay, thank you, Mildred. I think that's exactly what we're going to have to talk about.
Okay, thank you.
But I appreciate your comments. They're very articulate and well understood.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see. I think Mr. Collins has his hand up on Zoom. So if we could promote him to go over his comments.
Yes, hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All righty. So I think I said the bulk of what I wanted to say, at the public comment point. I think Commissioner Tim made a really good point of how this is a very large undertaking, right? And it's done every 8 years and it's done for hundreds of positions. And so I think, if any of these people, if any of you are here next time this is done, so this is the third classification study I have been participated in as the union president over my 18 years here. And none of them were perfect. I don't know that I would say any of them were great. There were always complaints from employees and some of the unions. And I think one of the challenges, one of the weaknesses is having staff set expectations at the beginning and really kind of lay out, that was probably one of the weaker points of this study. Just kind of expectations of everybody moving from the beginning when we first created the committee, had our first committee meeting. in December of 22. So, but I think it is imperfect. The process was imperfect. I wouldn't call the process bad. We had lots of meetings, we had lots of discussion, and staff and the consultant were fairly responsive. They definitely weren't perfect. But you know, it's kind of like the old saying of throwing the baby out with the bathwater, right? You know, I mean, it is imperfect, but it was good and it got us a couple big steps towards the right direction. And so to throw it all away and go back to nothing would be, you know, a very bad decision. So I think we really need to move forward with this. There are a lot of employees who are affected with this. It's not just compensation. There are job descriptions, job titles that are recommended to be changed. There are some items in the job description that are recommended to be changed. So there's a lot as part of this. And I'm sorry, but I do have to run now. So I'll find out what happened later. Thank you, guys.
Well, thank you, Mr. Collins. Thank you for staying. We appreciate it very much. And I think our last commenter will be Ms. Upshur. And then I think it'll be up to the commissioners then to discuss how we want to move forward. So Ms. Upshur,
Hi.
please go ahead.
Yes, I asked to stay off camera because I'm actually en route. But I did want to say, as a confidential employee, and because we were a part of the compensation study, of course, and also a part of the class and comp committee, I wanted to agree with both Local 21 as well as BCCE. I feel like this was a very long process, and I feel like, you know, we did what we felt like was best. It was not A1. It wasn't our best work, in my opinion, but I feel like we all did the best that we can do. One thing I did want to bring up was that me personally, because I did have a conversation with Charlie, because as you know, confidential employees are not a union, they're not a bargaining unit, but we are supposed to be represented by either the district or the personnel commission, whichever one is capable of meeting us where we're at. Majorly, the PC normally represents us in any kind of, you know, issues or anything comes about. And we didn't really get a chance to meet with Charlie, but one of the things I did get is I thought we were supposed to have a meeting with the committee and the personnel commission to kind of go over our final suggestions or final concerns before it came to this process. And I hate to be saying it so late in the game, but that was one of the things that I thought we would have been able to do offline before we even got to this process. That was my understanding from talking to Mr. Castillo, or Executive Director Castillo, was that we would have had a moment to have a meeting with the Personnel Commission, the board, behind closed doors to discuss our concerns prior to where we got to the public. And that's my only concern, is that I feel like that has never happened. And I feel like if it did, we probably would be alleviating, maybe not all, but a few of these concerns that everyone has today. I am, like I said, I'm not speaking more so as the confidential employee, but more so as on behalf of the class and comp study committee, is that I feel like that was something that was kind of offered but never really happened. And I'll leave it at that, short and sweet.
Thank you, Ms. Upshur. Thank you very much.
Thank you
Okay.
all.
We'll close then our comments that we received. I don't see anyone else with their hand up. Well, okay, one last person, Ms. Diggs Ray, please go ahead.
Yeah, I was just wondering, because there was a survey that was sent out in regards to the study, and I thought it was going to be brought back to the commission or to the committee to see how people felt. If that was never done, is it going to happen?
Right, okay. Thank you, Ms. Dixray. So now I think it's time for the commissioners to weigh in and discuss how or if we want to move forward. I'll start out again, kind of reiterating some of what I said previously. This is just my own personal opinion on this. I do think that we do need to move this forward to the Board of Education and to the district. Frankly, well, I also think that it's not our role and responsibility. We don't determine the job descriptions. We don't determine the duties that each position has. That's what the Board of Education does, but we can provide a recommendation if we have one. We also don't provide the compensation. We don't negotiate with the unions. We don't negotiate with unrepresented employees about what the compensation should be. So I think we need to keep that in mind. I personally, I agree. Sort of part of what Mr. Collins said, in agreement with what Vice Chairperson Carter was saying, that I think your ideas we have from experience can say this process doesn't work too well. Hiring an outside consultant and doing all of the jobs all at once, both the job descriptions and the compensation. We've had experience now doing this a few times, and it hasn't worked out very well. So I think, Mr. Carter, your idea of having it more of taking it in bite-sized pieces and doing it more internally, where we understand the process better and get a handle on things, does make sense. I don't think we can do that now. I think that that's something that is a great idea for a couple of years from now, or even sooner, as an ongoing process. Lastly, I guess I will say that I, for one, at least preliminarily, don't feel that we can provide a recommendation with respect to the BCCE employees. I think we can say that both the compensation and the job descriptions might serve as a guideline, might serve as sort of a jumping off point for negotiations, for meet and confer. But I, for one, feel that there have been so many, as articulated by both Frank and by Mildred, that I would be uncomfortable saying we recommend the job descriptions as EHA has proposed them, or that we approve the methodology on compensation. I think that's going to be, unfortunately, for meet and confer, for negotiations. It's actually a little bit fortuitous that negotiations are happening at the same time. I think that's actually probably a good thing. So I think those are my preliminary thoughts about this, but as always, I really want to hear what my fellow commissioners have to think about it. Yes, Mr. Carter, please go ahead.
So the study it's huge. It's enormous, and it's a lot to take in, especially me coming in the middle of the process. What I am concerned with is the concerns that BCCE has brought up constantly and consistently. Their concerns have been consistent. The hesitance I have is that we don't have an alternative. So there's no way to address the totality of their issues from our position here as the PC Commission. And I don't know if we'd do more harm if we didn't move this forward than good. and allowing this to fall into, or move forward to negotiations from here. As far as the scope and our impact on the report, I do want to, repeat that our scope here is limited, but that's only because we've relinquished control of the report to an outside agency. We would have more control and more input on the process if it were handled in-house on a piece-by-piece basis inside the PC, where I believe it belongs. It should be handled by the district because these are our district employees and it should be handled here. That being said, I think as you're saying, it's nothing we can do today about that. But I do think we may want to look at moving this forward.
Ms. Goldstein.
Thank you. So what we have with this study is a lot of information, a lot of data. Integrity and analysis makes data into information. Part of that is our job, because this study pertains to populations that we know best. So there's no question in my mind, this study moves forward with all its data to the school board and to the administration. I think also because BCCE has real concerns, and whether I agree with all the concerns or not is not something I'm going to do chapter and verse here. But they're concerns, and BCCE has the right to also petition to the administration that they think there are problems with their phase of the study, phase 1, and why, so that the decision makers on the administration and the Board of Education side, you can be informed, and they may choose to inquire further on that, or they may not. I don't know what their position will be on that, but I think that's important. I think what we've heard from Local 21 and the unrepresented or confidential populations is that they're comfortable enough with how this study was conducted that they're interested in seeing the recommendations move forward. So my position would be that we share all the data, that we share EHA's recommendations for each phase, and that our value add in this, and I'm not quite sure how we would do this. I don't know if we could get a Berth to make a report to the Board of Education at one of their upcoming meetings. I think probably that might be the best way to do it, in addition to documentation that we send by referral, that speaks to the concerns of the need for a compensation philosophy here at BUSD, and the competing need that even with a compensation philosophy, a public agency may decide it just can't act on everything. And it will need to decide, if it's going to act on anything. So it's very possible we could share all this data. We could talk about a compensation philosophy, and the district would say, that's really nice. We have no money. We're not doing anything, and leave it up to negotiations for all the unions and basically leave the unrepresented hanging. I don't know if that's what's going to happen, but I've certainly seen it other places. We spent the district's money to do this. We had a very hard time getting the district to put up money to do this. It took 3 personnel directors to queue it up. Director Castillo finally moved it over the finish line to actually get an RFQ and an RFI out and to get responses. It was hard and very embarrassing for him to actually get our contractor paid. And I don't know why that is, other than an expression of institutional resistance to the process. I'll be really frank. I don't know that the district wanted this. I know Steve Collins said it's been 8 years. By my count, the last one was done in 2012. It's been 14 years, or I guess 12 years, really, since the last one was done. And, you know, it's tough. If an employer really isn't interested in having the data, we see sort of what I feel like we saw here. If a union isn't really interested in having the information and the data, we see what I think we saw here from BCCE. And, you know, as a commission, we can't control that. You know, if you would rather negotiate for yourselves, that's what you're going to do. And if the district agrees with you, that's exactly what will happen. I think our charter here is we spent the district's money. We have a bunch of data. We need to share it, and we need to share our perspective on top of it in the term of recommendations. And what I would say more specifically is the recommendations are to talk about the need for a compensation philosophy, to share that based on, I think, everybody's best effort. And I think folks have seen this in various ways, shapes, and forms. It is the summary of the top 50 positions and where they fall against a 50%, you know, market marker, you know, what could use attention. I think that is probably as good a basis as any to help our administration and our school board think through, do they want to act on this at all? And I think that is really what we should transmit, along with a document that was put together by EHA for phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. And I'm holding it up. I realize people can't read this, but it's in the public packets that have been included with our materials, and we can include it again, that talk about the price impact or the expense impact of taking action on some of these. So that's what I would like to do.
Thank you. Mr. Carter, do you want to go any further? Well, we do need to figure out then how we, in addition to what we want to say, how we want to say it. I guess I am willing either to make or to entertain a motion, a lot of it along the lines of really what all three of us, I think, have been saying. Probably the components of it are, we are referring EHA's report to the Board of Education and to the district for action, for negotiation, however they see fit to use it, that data that Ms. Goldstein was referring to, that we feel, and this is not in the right order, but we feel that the scope of our, I think we start out with what the scope of our responsibility is, and the scope, more importantly, of what the school board and the district's responsibility are, having to do with duties, establishing duties, and negotiating compensation. I think that I'm in agreement, certainly with Mr. Carter. I'm not sure if Ms. Goldstein feels this way, that I think we should explicitly maybe discuss some of the limitations that BCCE has brought forward, both about the job descriptions and about the compensation methodology, and therefore we are not making a recommendation with respect to those. I think we can make a recommendation that we have not been advised of similar problems with respect to local 21's job descriptions or compensation study aspect, and therefore we can recommend that those aspects of the report go forward. I think that I'm scratching my head a little bit about the compensation philosophy. I understand entirely why that's a good idea. And certainly in a lot of private industry and even in public sector, it's nice to know in advance where you want to be. But as a realist, I don't think it's always possible. And one might be setting up a goal that is just unattainable because of limitations having to do with budget and all of that. So I'm a little bit unsure about if we should have any recommendation about a compensation philosophy. And finally, I do think we should recommend that in the future that this study be done in-house, possibly retaining a dedicated employee for that purpose, and to be done on a more continuous basis, and to be done in smaller segments. Yes, Ms. Goldstein, please.
I like your summary, and by and large, I agree with it. I would not want to represent BCCE's concerns with the study. I would suggest that instead we flag that we have heard on multiple occasions from BCCE that there are serious concerns, and that we urge the district to talk to BCCE to understand what those concerns are. I'm not prepared to represent them. I'll try one more time for the comp philosophy. And I guess it's hard if you haven't been through one. We all know schools have a limited amount of money to work with. And when you set up a comp philosophy, what you're trying to do are two things. You're trying to say, generally speaking, what am I trying to do to compete with those districts around me, for all roles. And some roles are, more hard to fill than others. Some roles are one-offs and are specialized. So part of a comp philosophy also says, I have some key roles in my organization, and I may treat those key roles a little differently than I treat roles that have got, 30 people in them. And there, of course, there are impacts on that. It means you're doing a lot more recruiting, perhaps, for roles that have 30 people in them. And I'll take the IA population because that's a high velocity role with a lot of folks in it, where we have a lot of vacancies and we are always recruiting. And, a comp philosophy that says, I really want to fix that is one thing. And a comp philosophy that says, I'll tolerate it is another. And I think it is helpful to the organizations that do the HR, and that would be, both the commission as well as assistant superintendent's HR organization, to have that comp philosophy guide them. So I think we certainly can't tell them the comp philosophy, but I think we should be making the case that they would do well to develop one, because it will help operationally their organizations that handle these things make better use of their time and resources.
Thank you. Mr. Carter.
Yeah, I'll just make a comment on the comp philosophy. I'm not sure if that's our lane directly necessarily for us to be advising the district or the employer on how they should build the philosophy around how they pay people. As a small employer, I would take immediate offense to that. But I did want to comment on the sending the report or recommending the report to the district. I think we should give them some clarity on where we have concerns. And I think BCC has brought up enough concerns to where we need to make sure that they're clear that the commission has concerns with specific areas of BCCE's employees, members. And I'd like to make them aware that the commission will be open to hearing reclassification requests in the future in those areas that BCC maybe identifies as it goes over to the district. We can't impact negotiations, nor can we impact the salary. But I think sending a message to the district to let them know we would be open to considering and hearing reclassification in the areas of concern for our union and our members. I think that will carry more weight than anything else when they're at negotiations for this class and comp study. So that's my comment.
Yeah, I guess I wanted to comment on the reclassification, and we heard very eloquently comments about the media specialists as an example. I personally think that it's now time that we do, as a commission, listen to, have on the agenda reclassifications, either reclassifications that EHA has recommended or reclassifications that are brought to us in the normal course, as many reclassifications are. Sometimes those reclassifications are just for one or two employees, but sometimes they're for an entire group of employees, as may be the case with the media specialists. So if we did have informally, I don't remember that we ever voted on it, but if we had a moratorium on reclassifications, I think that it's time to lift that moratorium and go ahead. And that, I think, as I understand it, is within the purview of the commission. We don't have to wait for the Board of Education. Of course, we'll hear from the representatives of the district and the supervisors and everybody else about the reclassification request, but ultimately that determination, I think, is ours. So again, how to go forward with this. I hate to even suggest delaying things any further, but I think we have, with maybe a couple of minor points, pretty much agreement among the three of us on what our report to the district, our referral, I like to call it a referral to the district, would look like. I think that, because we're a public entity, we have to do everything in open session. And I'm not sure we're able to do it right now. There's just too much. It's too big a thing. So one suggestion might be, and I hate to put this on our interim director, but I would be more than happy to assist her, is to do a draft of a referral, and then maybe have a special meeting if we can do that, if we can schedule one, to go over the points of our draft in detail and make a final motion on what our referral should look like. I don't know how else to proceed, frankly.
I have a thought.
Yes.
Because we have delayed already one meeting at request of BCCE, I think time is of the essence. I think that I would like to move that we refer, immediately, the full 4 phases of the report, for anyone who would like to read them, officially, refer them. And what I would like to refer is the wage survey, this pretty document, which you can sort many different ways, with the cost impact of these items, just to give an idea of what the consultant has said, and say that, pursuant to us doing a little outboard work and a special meeting, our specific recommendations, because, there are many things here, there's 30 recommendations. We may not get that granular, but, as we do our outboard work at a special meeting, we may decide, we really think you ought to take a special look at all the items that are red or black, for example. Red in this case is something that is below the 50th percentile for the peer organizations that were used in the wage study. Black and dark blue were jobs that we really couldn't get good peer groups for. So I'm just picking things sort of out of the blue now. But, you know, when we make our specific referrals, we may want to talk, you know, to those particular jobs. Or we may decide we just want to talk to the high velocity, high recruitment positions that we have seen in our years sitting on this board, and actually ask the district to focus on those. You know, it could go anywhere. I think probably we will need a little more discussion. And I will volunteer to write the part of the referral that talks about the compensation philosophy, so that you know, it will be clearly articulated what such a thing is and why it's useful to a public agency.
Mr. Carter.
Yes, I like your suggestion, Commissioner Roder, that we should maybe set aside a special meeting to make sure our wording is what we want it to be when we move it forward to the district. I do want to say we had the president of Local 121 who didn't seem to have any issues with his portion of the compensation study. And although our time frame and our target is a special meeting and then we'll have a decision, in case it's delayed further, I'd suggest that we move the section that impacts Local 121 forward, since we have feedback from the head of that union that they're okay with it, and craft our response to address BCCE's issues. And that is the portion that I would think we would want to write and match with our recommendation for our second meeting. But I would suggest, again, this has been taking a long time, and our recommendations and our write-up won't impact 121 at this point, because they haven't brought anything forward to us that we should be concerned about. So if we're going to move forward with the report, with the write-up, I think we should go ahead and allow 121, or recommend 121's portion to move forward.
I'm the reason I'm sighing is because I'm a little reluctant to do it so piecemeal. And if we can schedule, again, it's been a long time coming. If we can schedule within the next week or two a special meeting, because I agree that Local 21s can be brought forward now, and with basically a recommendation, but I hate to do it. I hate to do it piecemeal. I would rather provide the board with kind of one document that is our referral to them.
I think also the reason this becomes important, you know, on the one hand, and let's not forget the unrepresented, they really are also sort of their own unit here. The amount of compensation that is represented by Local 21 is fairly small. Compared to BCCE, although BCCE is on average, you know, the positions are the more low compensated positions. There are many more BCCM members than there are Local 21 or unrepresented confidential members. So I agree with Commissioner Roder. I think we would do well to bring it all forward, you know, recommendations, you know, for all the units forward, along with, you know, a flag that says if there are concerns on the part of a unit, you know, that we recommend they research those further and understand them. What I was not clear on in what we're saying here is, do we see a problem, or have we already shared the actual phases of the document, the big fat document that you have here, and these smaller things? The district has already seen all those.
Yes, they have.
Okay.
part of the public agenda, so in that respect, they have the ability to see it, whether they've looked at it, I don't know.
Yeah, we probably ought to formally transmit it. Yeah.
Well, then, could we, because we do need to wrap this up, I think, could we, as a consensus, perhaps, Commissioner Goldstein has volunteered graciously to write up a paragraph or two. I mean, this is not going to be a large dissertation, I hope. A paragraph or two with respect to why a compensation philosophy might be advisable. I think, frankly, with a proviso that it's up to the school board whether they want such a thing. But Commissioner Goldstein would do that. I think, Aaron, do you feel that you've taken sufficient notes to have an understanding in a general way about what our views are on the various aspects of the report, such that you could at least begin a draft that we could review at a meeting? And I would be happy to volunteer to work with Aaron. Aaron provides the first draft of the draft, and then I'll take a look at the second draft of the draft, and then we'll provide the draft to us and the public at a special meeting. Do you feel that you've got a general understanding of the scope of what we're talking about?
I believe that I do. If not, I'll just watch the recording again.
Right, right,
times.
right. And I don't know, Mr. Carter, if you want to volunteer for anything, or if you'll be our editor in chief when the drafts are submitted.
I think I'm more comfortable with the editor in chief role than overcommitting to something I couldn't complete.
Okay, I'm not sure if we need a motion to decide to do it that way, or just have it be, because we're not really taking an action yet.
I think the one action that we are taking is to formally transmit the full 4 phases of the report to the superintendent. As well as the, I guess this is in phase 4, this little breakout. Okay.
I'm uncomfortable with that. I would like to do that as part of what we are transmitting and referring to them after our special meeting on that subject. Because if we just send it to them cold, then they haven't had the benefit of, this discussion of what we're trying to, the context that it appears in.
All right, so I'll push back a little bit on that and suggest that I think for anybody who's, functioning in administration, they've dealt with HR issues before. I think they will probably go to section 4. They'll look through, the first 3 sections. They'll have an idea of what job descriptions were reviewed and what have you. And, they'll see all the familiar things. They will probably see also that the job descriptions that we continue to have trouble with, are the ones that got the big markups or, had the big differences. So I don't think there will be much of a surprise there. I think, to tell you the truth, what they'll really be interested in is phase 4, to understand who are the peer organizations, that we compared our comp with. And then, this, just to try to understand, based on no articulated comp philosophy, where are the blue, green, the red areas, how much trouble am I in? What might the volume of recommendations be? And I think that is sort of a useful pre-read for when our recommendations come. So, and some people may not read it all. They just may say, we're going to wait till the recommendations, but I think it's a useful pre-read.
Yeah. Well, as Sarah has said, it's all available. And I'm sure Samantha has read every word of it and knows it backwards and forwards. And I think, our labor partners have done the same.
No, I agree. It's a
sure.
formality to formally transmit it, but I think what it says is, a recommendation is coming shortly. we want to make sure you have the whole document. No harm done.
Nah, I personally think there can be a lot of harm done if we don't put it in context, which is what we're trying to do at the special call meeting. You know, you're going to write a draft. Aaron and I are going to work on a draft, and I totally agree with you, Heidi, that we do need to formally submit the whole thing. Absolutely. I just think we should do it as a piece, one piece, rather than piecemeal.
We should meet Speedy then if
Agreed.
I decide we're going to do some special meetings. We should schedule 2 prior to the October meeting so that we can have this ready to go.
I totally agree. Can we look at our calendars in
Sure.
that case and see if we can?
Sure.
And Sarah, can you help us and Aaron with that project? So sometime in October, well, Sarah, you know the availability of various rooms and all of that.
Do we think we need the boardroom or a smaller venue would be appropriate?
I think the sooner the better, frankly, personally, whatever is available. Or do you,
Start just giving me dates.
yeah, do you want to give us some dates which we can look at, you know, after the meeting? Would that be better for you?
So if we want
Or
to do,
later in the meeting? Maybe later.
Yeah,
maybe later in the meeting, that'll be a little easier, I think. Let's just come back to that.
Come back to it, okay. All right, so it looks like we're going to defer this item a little bit. For later discussion when Sarah has some dates available.
All right, so where I'm leaving this is the action that we want to take is to schedule some special meetings to put together a comprehensive recommendation. No referrals, nothing at this time.
Correct.
That sounds good.
Right. I'm just not sure it will take multiple meetings. I'm hoping we can do it in one meeting for this purpose.
I am too, but I would schedule a couple just in case.
Okay. All right. Well, at least we have, I think, a consensus of the direction we want to go. And that I think is progress. All right, so now let's see, what did we do here? We're now on the consent items with the exception of item 7A and 7F. So do we have a motion to approve the eligibility lists 7B, C, D, E, G, and H?
I'm motion to approve.
And I'll second.
Second, and I agree. So now we'll go to the items that were pulled for discussion. I guess we'll do it in order. Item 7A, which is the one I asked to be pulled, and I hope this doesn't bring in a whole new can of worms. But on the administrative assistant 3, so we have 7 people on the eligibility list, all of them open. And I see on page 6 of our agenda, there were actually 53, which is a very high number, 53 written exams administered and 12 oral exams. And I don't see anyone on the list who is a promotional candidate. So I'm going to bring up yet again the issue potentially of cutoff scores. It's kind of looking maybe, and I have no idea, whether we modified the cutoff score such that, again, promotional candidates were not, or maybe that's just not the case. Aaron, I'm looking at you.
No, that wasn't the case. We did not raise the cut score more than 70. I don't recall how many promotional candidates started off in the process, but we had a lot that just backed out during the period between the written exam and the oral exam, and some no-shows for the oral exam. But I can assure you that we did not set a high path point for those exams.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. And with that, I personally would move to approve the eligibility list in item 7A.
I'll second.
I agree.
Agreed. So that passes unanimously. And Ms. Goldstein, item 7F.
Sure. So my question about 7F, this is the maintenance engineer position. And we've heard a lot about the maintenance engineer position in prior meetings. We have 3 ranks, right? 1 promotional and 2 open, so we have a list. It's not a super robust list. What caught my attention was that there was a 73-day interval between the written exam and the performance exam. And I'm just wondering what happened here.
Yeah, that was unusual, but we did in this case, because we didn't have a lot of candidates that were participating, we definitely wanted to accommodate at least a third. In this case, our promotional candidate was taking a pre-planned vacation. So we had to push back the first time when we set the performance exam, we had to push it back in time so that our promotional candidate could return back from vacation. And when we set the second time around, we set the performance exam date. It was a day or 2 before the school started. And so we got like a last minute request from all of maintenance department asking us not to run the performance exam on those dates because they were just flooded with requests for start of school. So we had to push it back a 3rd time. And that's why there was such a long interval. It's a pretty comprehensive exam. There's many skills that are being tested. So we need a lot of materials. We need a lot of setup. We definitely need to cooperate with the maintenance department for these exams.
And so I'm clear, school started, I know it started on a Wednesday in August, but I don't know which Wednesday. When did school start?
The 14th.
And, okay, appreciate that. The delay to accommodate the promotional candidate who was on vacation, would we have done that for an open recruitment as well, under these circumstances?
I think because it's a difficult recruitment, we only had 2 candidates moving forward, open candidates. I think we made that call on that occasion to push it back a few more weeks. We didn't lose anybody in the process.
Right. I'm asking a slightly different question, which is if an open candidate had said, I'm on vacation the month of July, I can't test till August, would we have accommodated that?
It just
Why or why not is the next question I'll ask.
So I think it just depends on the recruitment. For the most part, unless the candidate has a medical emergency or a medical reason, we will accommodate. But in this case, I think we considered the fact that there weren't a lot of candidates. We checked in with the candidates who were still available, the open candidates, and they were willing to wait for the date. So to push back. So, we just made a call to push it further.
And I get it in the time. I would like to suggest that going forward, we establish a clear policy on how and when we delay. Clearly, the testing department, I get it. If they're not ready to do the test, we're delaying. I think it's very nice that we delayed based on a candidate being on vacation. As a matter of equitable treatment, I want to make sure I understand who is entitled to that treatment when they get it. So can you return to the next meeting with sort of a clear statement about how we handle that going forward in the future?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Want to move that?
Yeah, I'm fine with this. I'm glad we have candidates. That's a good thing. So I'll go ahead and move that we approve this list 7F.
I second.
And I agree with that too. So that passes unanimously. The next item is conference item 8A, which is the step advance request for B. Adams. I did want to say, Ms. Diggs-Ray, I do see that your hand is up. I think it's a new hand raise, but I think we do need to move forward on the agenda. And if you could reserve your comment for the final public comment session, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you. First, I'll ask if Mr. Adams is here or on Zoom, or you are here. Okay, well, welcome. Would you like to step up to the podium and just make a brief comment, and then we'll make a decision on this?
Hello, thank you for letting me be here. Yeah, so I think as you can see by my resume and by the letter of recommendation that I'm highly qualified for this position. I have about 8 total years of classroom experience. That includes Teach for America, that includes classroom teaching experience, that includes being instructional aide, high school, middle school. So I think I was hired with enthusiasm for this position based on that experience. I also think furthermore, I just won't be able to accept the position unless I get this. It's just not a livable wage in the Bay Area. And I'm really hoping I get it because I was hired at the beginning of August. It took about 4 weeks for the contract to get signed. If I have to leave because of this, I could very well see that it's another 4 to 5 weeks of the position not getting filled, which I know would really set the principal at Washington at a pretty serious disadvantage. So I would just really hope that you're able to do the full step increase, because otherwise I just honestly may not be able to accept the position. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. By coincidence, I was just in Ashland, Wisconsin. I was a couple of weeks ago, and I visited Northland College, even though I think it's having a few hard times right now. In fact, one of my best friends was a teacher at Northland College, so I was. I'm sorry. Her name is Kate Seeler. She was a nursing professor quite some time ago. Anyway, from my standpoint, and I'd like to hear from Aaron on this, I agree that Mr. Adams is highly qualified for this position. He meets our rubric that we established a few meetings ago, and that most definitely the instructional aide position is a difficult to recruit position in our district. But Aaron, did you want to present any more facts about this?
Well, just on the side note, Mr. Adams did also submit transcripts and diplomas that we vetted before the meeting, but we failed to include them here in the packet. Also, yes, the instructional assistant is definitely one of those open and ongoing recruitments that we do because there's a lot of turnover in the role, and the district is hiring a lot more instructional assistants this year because of the TK, the changes to TK. So yeah, we're actually now we're recruiting for an IA and an IA bilingual position. So it's always posted. It's very challenging to fill.
Thank you, Aaron. Ms. Goldstein, Mr. Carter, comments?
I'm happy to hear we're using the rubric to come to these decisions. I'm not a fan of starting anyone at step 5. I think I've been vocal about that. It just doesn't leave much room for the employee once they hit step 5, which really, as an employer, what that really does is that just limits the time frame that they're with us. I don't know if that's coincidence or if that's just the way it unfolds because the salary isn't up to what they need. But that being said, we have a rubric, and I'm going to abide by the rubric. And if he falls in step 5, then let's do it.
Commissioner Goldstein, comments?
So I am happy to have data that tells me that IAs are one of the undercompensated compared at least to our, the peers that were used in the comp study. I get the livable wage problem. I also see you're studying library science. So when you get your degree, maybe you'll apply for a library job here, which would be lovely. I just know from my other travels that the quality of applicant at BUSD for IA positions is just blows away any other district I've seen. There are other things here at this district that are attractive to folks. They're not in it for the money. That's really clear. And I'm happy to have a candidate with your background. I'm supportive at step 5.
Thank you. Well, I'll move then that Mr. Adams be placed at step 5 for instructional assistant.
And I'll second.
I agree.
Okay, it passes unanimously. Thank you very much, Mr. Adams. Thank you for joining our district and good luck here at Berkeley. Thank you. All right, let's see, where are we now? Step advance. Okay, now we are on item 8C, which is the nomination of our personnel commissioner. So this is the appointment that the 2 other commissioners, myself and Mr. Carter, make. We have in our agenda somewhere attachment C. And so it is my understanding that both Vice Chairperson Carter and I are in agreement to appoint or reappoint Personnel Commissioner Goldstein for another term as our 3rd commissioner. As I said at the onset of this meeting, this is would be the public announcement of that nomination. And then there will be an opportunity at the October 23rd meeting, which will actually be on the 30th day after today, to people to present their views on the nomination, and then we will actually have a vote on it. So am I representing your position correctly, Mr. Carter?
Absolutely.
Okay, so Aaron, could, number one, the minutes reflect that the 2 of us agree to nominate Commissioner Goldstein to be reappointed as the 3rd commissioner. Could you please transmit that information to the Board of Education formally, because that's required. And it's required prior to September 30th, so please do so. And inform the Board of Education that we will be holding a public hearing on October 23rd, and that will be a noticed public hearing so that everyone can have the opportunity to weigh in on the appointment. Okay, thank you. Okay, where are we now? We did that, those 2 are off. So we now have a closed session, which I don't think will be very lengthy. It's scheduled for 30 minutes, but my guess is it's going to be shorter than that. And that's on the subject of the recruitment of a new executive director. So on that, we will adjourn to a closed session. I think that ready to start up again. Okay, we've completed our closed session, and the report out from the closed session is that the commissioners met with our consultant, Philip Gordillo, on the recruitment for the executive director. We received an update, and the deadline for submitting applications has been extended to October 9th, 2024. Let's see, now, we do have discussion item 11, but earlier on, I think Ms. Scher indicated that she had already, this is the after-school program specialist and after-school program coordinator job description similarities, that she had addressed those during the union reports and would be submitting an agenda item as a conference item for our next meeting on October 23rd. Is there anyone else who wishes to address this item regarding the after-school program specialist? Don't see anyone in the audience. Now, let's see here. Participants. Don't see anyone on Zoom either. Okay, so we will defer that item. So I think we just need to go back to how we're gonna establish.
I would like a little background on that. I'm not as familiar with it. The yeah, I think it was mentioned before. I wasn't here how it came about. And
Well, sure, that's fair. I'll try to provide a summary, and Aaron or Heidi can amplify on it. So about 2 years ago, I think, the district came to the conclusion that the after-school program employees, whether it was the specialists or the teaching, are they teaching assistants? Instructional technicians, that's the right term. No, technicians, I think.
The instructional tech before and after school
Yeah.
program.
Yeah, that they were being supervised by the principals at each of the sites, which often meant they weren't being supervised at all, because oftentimes the principals weren't even in school at the site after school hours. And so there was nobody supervising those employees. And as we know, because they were BCCE employees, they don't provide supervisory services. They can't supervise people, even though they were doing all the jobs at a higher level at the sites for the after-school program. So the district decided to create a coordinator position. And there was a lot of back and forth on how that was done. It wasn't all that clear-cut, put it that way. But finally, some coordinators were hired. And the coordinators do have, as has been pointed out, similar responsibilities to the specialists. Many of the specialists at the site were in fact hired and promoted to be coordinators, but not all the specialists were. And then I think there were some specialists, some coordinators who were hired from an open list as well. I guess now, fast forward, and Mildred is here, and if I'm misstating it, she can correct me. The view by some, including BCCE, I think, is that there's a lot of overlap between the jobs being performed by the specialists and the jobs being performed by the coordinators. So in some respects, if a specialist is doing coordinator work, specialist is working out of class. And in other situations, there's a lot of redundancy where there's a coordinator and a specialist. Now, I think the district, again, I don't want to speak for Samantha, but I think the district is looking at this as to how to make it more efficient and make more sense. But I don't think they've come up yet with a proposal to how to do that. I think that's the background, and I think that Ms. Scher and Mr. Hernandez will be presenting the details to us at the next meeting. Did I come anywhere close?
I'm looking at the clock and I just, you know, want to respect everybody's time. So
Yeah.
I don't want, so I can wait for the next meeting to elaborate more.
Thank you, thank you. And Mr. Carter, does that provide you with at least some general background, a little context?
I didn't expect it to come back.
Okay.
I do have one question.
Sure.
I'm sorry, you're pointing at somebody else. though.
I was pointing at Erin. She had her hand up.
Only because someone from the public is raising their hand. So
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Ms. Golson.
My question is just a real quick one. Has anybody requested a desk audit for any of these positions recently? Like since the the coordinator position has come into being?
not officially, no, nobody's requested a desk
Okay.
audit.
Okay.
Okay, as Erin pointed out, we have UW who's got their hand up. So we'll call
Hi,
W.
hi, my name is Unique. I've joined a few of the meetings. I am the specialist at Berkeley Arts Magnet. Just to bring it to the attention again, I did test. I did get on the eligibility list for this position. It was filled with someone not promotional, so it was filled with an open person. Since February, that position has been, I don't want to say vacant because it hasn't been posted again, but it's been unfilled. So I have been working as the specialist, but I have been supervising all of the ITs at BAM. I haven't had any supervisor on campus with me or to supervise myself or any of the ITs. So I'm kind of trying to figure out what is the best request for myself, because I feel I should be compensated for the work that I have been doing. It was brought to my attention that they probably are not going to even open that position back up. However, I'm doing the same work as coordinators are from other sites. And the only thing different looking at the job descriptions is putting my name on an evaluation. But I do provide all feedback for those evaluations since I'm the only one there. So yeah, the jobs are pretty much the same. The pay is different, and myself and 2 other people are currently working as specialists with no coordinator or no pay as the coordinator. So it's a lot of inequity around all of the sites. And I've been kind of bringing this up since February. So hopefully we can get something resolved. But yeah, that's my 2 cents on that. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your comments. My suggestion would be that I think this is going to be brought up as a conference item for action at the next meeting. And my suggestion would be if you could and the other employees coordinate both with your union representative, I think in this case it's Mildred Scher, and also with our interim executive director for how the item should be structured for our next meeting. I think, so that we can, because it'll be a conference item, we need to take action. So the question is, what action are we able to take? Ms. Goldstein.
Along those lines, I was going to suggest this to Vice Chair Carter also. Reading the 2 job descriptions is important to sort of understand the difference in the tasks that each is supposed to do. And the reason I was curious as to whether or not there had been a desk audit was, to really understand, have we seen for ourselves that, the tasks that sit in the coordinator job description are being done by the person who is the specialist at the site. So, to the degree that the structure of the discussion can be in, apropos to those unique tasks, that would be very helpful.
Right, I agree, and that could result in a reclassification. I don't want to prejudge anything, but it's at least a possibility. And then what is not within our jurisdiction is the kind of overall structure of these positions, which will have to be determined, recommended, I guess, by Samantha Tobias Espinoza after consulting with BCCE and Local 21, and then taken to the board if there's going to be a modification. Yes, Erin.
This subject has come up with the LEARN's extended day department and with Samantha, and I know that they are working to, come up with some type of reorganization, because the initial plan to have a site coordinator at each site is not working. So I know that unfortunately, there are some sites that have no site coordinators, and then there are sites that do. And so that's a big problem, but I'm aware that they are working on it and trying to come up with a solution and potential reorganization of the after-school programs.
Thank you.
I
Did you want to make a comment,
Yes,
Mildred?
I just want to say something in closing that I just want us to keep in mind. First and foremost, Ms. Wells is who just spoke during public comment. She's the one that I was referencing earlier from Arts Magnet. So she is the specialist that has been at that site without a coordinator all this time. So I want us to keep in mind that obviously we don't need a coordinator at each site. If the school is able to run, there hasn't been any concerns, nothing said. So I just think that when we're looking at the reorganization of how all of this started, where we are, do we really need a coordinator at each site? What we do definitely need, and what is supposed to happen, is that we're supposed to have a specialist at each site. And the last we heard in these conversations is that they're supposed to be bringing back a specialist at each site. Right now, we only have 6, and there are 6 vacancies. And we're waiting, and I know we're supposed to talk about that, but we're waiting to have for them to rehire for specialists at each site. So I wanted to say that. But Ms. Wells is who I will be bringing that conference item back for in October. Thank you.
Yes, Erin.
Samantha has her hand up.
Oh, please go ahead, Samantha.
Hello, thank you. The one thing I do want to point out that is the biggest difference between these positions is that a BCC member cannot truly supervise another BCCE member. It doesn't work, and we don't have that set up. So that's the reason why these positions were created as Local 21, because there needs to be a different group that is doing the supervision, as well as is doing not only supervision and evaluation, but is also the decision maker. Currently, the program has Brazil, who is also Local 21, who is the program-wide coordinator, as well as Youssef, who is the manager for the extended learning program. And unfortunately, the 2 of them cannot be at 12 sites at once. And so that is part of the reason why these positions were created. And so we are aware that there are issues and that we want to work towards, but there is a huge difference in terms of these 2 positions, in terms of the responsibilities and what a BCCE member can and can't do when they are working with other BCCE members. So I just want the commission to be aware of that. And we are committed to working with both unions and the commission to resolve this. There is also budget implications in dealing with this issue.
Great. Thank you, Assistant Superintendent. Okay, so once again, I think at this point we need to go back and look to Sarah and possibly Erin for how we move forward with special call meeting or meetings for the compensation study and classification study.
So if we want to have the meeting in the boardroom in the next 2 weeks, we could do it in the morning during the day before 3 p.m. On every day except for Wednesdays.
So that would mean potentially even as early as September 30th, October 1st. I'm not available on the 2nd or 3rd or the 7th. The 4th, yes. And then we have tasked Ms. Goldstein, Aaron, and myself with coming up with a draft. So we do need I guess, a couple of days to work on that. Could we consider October 1st? Are you able to do it in the morning, Mr. Carter?
Yeah, October 1st will work for me.
So the room is available until 3 p.m. We should probably be out by 2, just to make sure that it's set up for the next meeting.
What time would you suggest, Sarah, that we start?
It's truly up to you.
Say it again.
Maybe 10 a.m.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. So 10 a.m. in the boardroom, October 1st.
And the meeting may or may not be hybrid. We will try to make it hybrid depending on our camera operator's availability that day.
Okay. Yeah, it doesn't, as I told Sarah, it doesn't, we try to make it hybrid to accommodate everybody, but if we can't, then we just won't be able to. And that's here in the boardroom.
Correct.
Okay. I don't think we're going to need another day.
Could we just?
You want to put something on
Please.
the calendar?
Yes.
You want, would the 4th be a possibility?
I did misspeak on that. There is a meeting in the boardroom in the morning, but we might have availability at Parker Street on the 4th.
I won't be available on the 4th.
You will not. Okay, so that won't work.
No.
That moves us to the 7th.
Be all right.
The 7th is our professional development day district-wide, so that won't work for.
That won't work. How about the 8th?
We can do again in the boardroom up until 2 p.m.
So this is just a contingency to hold the date. October 8th, does that work for you, Mr. Carter?
Yes, October 8th works.
October 8th, 10 a.m. in the boardroom. Let's think about drafts for a second. So this is a special call meeting, requires, if I'm not mistaken, 24 hours notice. So we're looking at October 1st. So we should really, today's the 23rd, we should really try to have our drafts completed. We'd like to include the drafts, would we not, in the agenda packet so people can look at what we're talking about. So we should try to have them completed, well, this week. Doable?
Well, we'll try.
Yeah, okay. All right. All right, that's decided. And now we have our last public comment session. Nobody in the boardroom. Is there anyone with their hand up? Yes? Oh, yes. Denise Diggs-Ray, thank you for being so patient. Go right ahead.
Okay, I wanted to make a comment, and I don't know if I need to make this an agenda item. But there was a survey that Charlie put out in regards to the comp class study, and I thought it was supposed to come back to a PC meeting. I haven't been to all the PC meetings lately, but I haven't seen anything. where the survey, there's supposed to be a tally survey so that everyone would know what people said. I'm hoping you guys will get that information. That kind of should be a follow-up of for the next meeting, but I don't see it anywhere. And then I'm wondering too, in regards to the PC meeting, does the PC not take into account what the study committee has to say? I haven't seen anything in regards to that. And I'm hoping that you guys will take into account, there was a committee. It was very frustrating being on this committee, but we did it. And it seems like you guys, that the PC should be taking into account what the committee has to say, besides the survey information. And I guess I have to make an agenda item from that, even though you guys have it on your regular agenda as follow-up. But it doesn't seem like you guys are following up on things that need to be carried over. So I wanted to bring that to your attention. And then I'm wondering about addressing all concerns. For all concerns, I understand that people need to put in an agenda request form, but then it seems like the commission is picking and choosing which concerns they want to address, rather than addressing all concerns. So I'm hoping you guys will go in a different route going forward in regards to all concerns, in regards to the study that on the classification and comp that was supposed to go out, and I'm sure probably not everybody, because they figure, okay, well, it didn't work the first time, why I'm even being bothered. And then in regards to what the committee had to say, I haven't been in all the meetings, your meetings or committee meetings, but there should be something from the committee that says something, and I hope you will take into account. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. Let's see. We also have Ms. Upshur with her hand up. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I was. Sorry, I kind of got muted. Sorry, I got muted in between. But yeah, I was saying the same thing. I felt like my concerns kind of got muted a little bit, and they never really got addressed. So I agree with Miss, I believe it was Denise Diggs. And I kind of was saying the same thing. Our opinions kind of got mulled over a little bit and never really got addressed during the whole process of the PC's decision. And like I said, we were told that we would have had an opportunity to meet with the PC, and it never happened. But I felt like it kind of got glossed over a little bit throughout this process after we said, what was told to us. So I would like to at least have it addressed, even if it's just moving past it, but just be addressed because it's important, I feel like.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Okay, I don't see any other hands up. There is?
She's raising her physical hand.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yep, please go ahead.
Hi, good evening. My name is Joni Lofton. I work for Nutrition Services. I'm the clerical assistant one here. I've been here for 11 years. I love my work. I love what I do. And I've seen a significant accretion of duties over the past 11 years. And clerical assistant one, my understanding, is the very base level of administrative support positions. With this reclassification study, I do understand BCCE has, very legitimate concerns. I'm on the same page. However, I'm wondering when you go into your special meeting to make recommendations, if there's some sort of compromise that, could be made in terms of BCCE where, basically the recommendations that have been made by Eric Hall and Associates that BCC actually agrees with, those specific components of the study, could move forward. If you end up voting and decide to, not recommend moving forward on phase 1, that's just a request I'm putting in. I've been waiting for, we're talking like years, years for reclassification. And I understand why the study, had to be postponed and everything. I don't have a problem with that, but I'm just, hoping now that we're in the final hours of the recommendation of the commissioners, that maybe some sort of compromise can be made in terms of the people who have been recommended for reclassification, which is myself. My understanding, I think there's nine other BCC employees. I'm not totally sure, but I'm one of those. And the reclassification that was recommended was from clerical 1 to clerical 3. Yeah, basically that's it. That's my request. Thank you.
Thank you for that comment. My suggestion is that you coordinate both with your union, but also with our interim director on reclassification and the possibility that that may be brought forward to the Personnel Commission as an agenda item going forward as a reclassification. But thank you for your comment. Okay, now I don't see anyone.
All right. I think Erin has
her hand up. Yes.
Yes, I have to read an email I received today from Rhonda Cervantes. She's executive assistant to Confidential, and she wanted to attend today, but due to family emergency, she wasn't able to. So she asked me to read this email during public comments on her behalf.
And
That's
I'm sorry,
okay.
this is who?
Rhonda Cervantes.
Oh,
So.
okay, I don't,
She
that's a
says-
little unusual, but I don't have a big problem with that.
Okay. Dear Commissioners, I regret that I am unable to attend the meeting this evening, but request that you consider my written comments. I am a Berkeley Unified School District confidential employee who served on the Classification and Compensation Study Steering Committee. Of the 5 confidential employees who participated in the study, 4, myself included, have indicated that they would like to see the consultant's recommendations move forward with regard to their positions. I understand that not all classified employee groups share the opinion that the recommendations of the consultants be adopted by the commission to recommend to the BUSD Board of Directors. If these groups will be harmed or negatively impacted in any way by the commission going forward with recommendations for those employees who wish to move forward, then I agree that the process should be paused. If there is no harm or negative impact to those who wish not to move forward, then I believe the recommendations should proceed for those that wish to. Thank you.
Thank you, Erin. Okay, anything else? Don't see any hands up. Okay, well then, our next meeting we'll be having our special call meeting on October 1st at 10 a.m. in the boardroom to go over the drafts, referrals for the classification and compensation study. We have also held open the possibility, if necessary, of an October 8th at 10 a.m. special call meeting for the same purpose in the boardroom. And then our next regular meeting will be October 23rd, also in the boardroom. And if there's nothing else, and there is something else.
Actually, this is just a planning question. In November, I'm holding 2 dates for our meeting. One is Friday, November 22nd, and the other is Monday, November 25th. I'm just wondering, could we come to closure now on those dates? Which one?
Well, I only have the 22nd.
Yes, it's the 22nd. It's the
It's
Friday.
the 22nd. Okay, so this is my poor record keeping. Okay, so the 22nd is the day. We're not doing Monday. Okay. Great. Thank you.
Okay, and with that, the meeting will be adjourned.